meeting for this evening. We have full council in attendance tonight. Councillor Link from Ward 1, Councillor Brussetti from Ward 2, Councillor Kleiber from Ward 3, and Councillor Craig from Ward 4. In attendance with us as well as our CAO Brent Alnick and our Director of Finance, Crystal Shahada. I will read the resolution and we'll open up the meeting. Be it resolved that the meeting be called to order and that the agenda for the meeting be adopted as circulated. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Link, seconded Councillor Brussetti. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Thank you. Our first order of business for this evening, item 3.1, is our 2020 draft audited financial statements. I will read the resolution and we can open the discussion. Be it resolved that the Council of the Rural Municipality of West St. Paul approve the 2020 draft audited financial statements. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Link, seconded Councillor Pereg. Mr. CAO, I will turn it over to you.
Madam Mayor, we've got our draft statements in from CGA Crystal, and I'll let her go into the details of it, but once again, we have a pretty healthy audit back from our auditors, and I'll hand it over to Crystal.
Thank you, Mr. CAO and Madam Mayor. So yeah, we're here tonight to present our 2020 draft audit statements, which were received last week from our auditors. Are there any questions or comments on the statements that are being presented today? Councillor Link?
I'm looking at, can you hear me, Crystal?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. I'm looking at page 2 of the draft report, and I'm looking at the third paragraph. Council, this is the statement of responsibility. The third paragraph reads, Council of the municipality met with management and the external auditors to review the consolidated financial statement and discuss any significant financial reporting or internal control matters prior to their approval of the consolidated financial statements. Now, we are not meeting with the external auditors today.
That's correct. I am presenting the statements.
Sorry?
I am presenting the statements.
Okay, so we're not complying with this statement of responsibility?
If that's the wish of council to meet with the auditors, I don't know what their schedule is like, and this will delay the process of us reporting our financial statements, or I should say audited statements to the province. But we are meeting with management today, which is the CAO and myself.
Yes. So is it the intention, I guess this question through the mayor would go to Mr. Olenek. Is it the intention of Mr. Olenek to sign this and include it for submission to the province?
Well, this is the draft. We're here for any questions from council. Then we would submit it back to the auditor. The auditor will look and finalize the statements for us.
So I'm saying, are you going to sign this statement of responsibility before you submit it?
Yeah. We went through this before. We went through this a couple of years ago where you wanted to have the auditors come in, and they came in and they said they don't usually do that. Meet to go over the statements. There's nothing wrong with the statements. The statements are healthy. We've gone from 0 in reserves in 2010 to in 2018, 8 million reserves to currently 19 million in reserves. There's no statements here that show there's any problems with the with our statements or audits here. If you think that there's a problem with them, if you want to point that out to our CGA, Ms. Shahada, and then we can discuss them.
I don't think this is the point. The point is they have written a written statement of responsibility here. Can we ignore a written statement of responsibility? Not in my opinion.
I can ask them to remove the comment about meeting with external auditors before we submit our finals and before the final drafts are signed for submission. These are the
Oh.
drafts, so the corrections can be made on the draft statements.
And will council see this draft before it's submitted?
You will see the final audit statements on September 8th.
That's before they will be submitted to the auditor,
Correct. To the province, correct.
the province.
Yes.
Seems fair, seems upfront.
Yeah, I can ask them to remove that as we are not meeting with the auditors today.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have one other question. I don't know if I should ask it now or when you're finished.
No, go ahead.
Going through. Okay. I'm looking at Schedule 10, page 38. Okay. Now I am looking at the PSAB budget column on the right-hand side.
Yes.
This schedule is about reconciliation of the financial plan to the budget. Okay, now at the bottom, I'm sorry, bottom right-hand corner, it says surplus, or in brackets, a deficit is shown.
Mm-hmm.
I see a $500,000 approximately deficit. Now I'm having a hard time considering that I see a deficit here, and on January 13th, council approved $750,000 being transferred into 5 reserve accounts. Could you comment, please, Ms. Shahara?
Sorry, what was the last part?
Could you
Of your
comment,
comment?
please, Ms.?
Yeah,
I'm
the
having
last
a
part of your comment. The amount transferred to reserves?
$750,000 was
Right.
transferred on the January 13th.
Correct. So this is a reconciliation of the financial plan to budget. It's a PSAB adjustment. So in PSAB, it doesn't take into consideration reserve transfers. They're eliminated in the process.
However, I see on the left-hand corner, or the left-hand side of the page, 1, 2, 3, 4 up from the bottom, transfers to reserves, 740,888. I see that transfer to reserves.
All right, give me 2 seconds. I'm just going to open up the financial plan as well. So as you'll see as well on here is the consolidated entities. So your entities are listed on page 9 of the draft statements in the notes. With the consolidated entities, any transfers with them as well will skew our numbers. So they will not exactly match our budget. Now you can see here there's a column with transfers. Those will also skew the numbers as well. We have amortization on our assets. So that'll cause a deficit. So when we operate as a cash basis. So all monies going out is expensed, all monies received is a revenue. PSAB is accrual basis. So you look at amortization as an expense as well. So if you add up all these numbers across the bottom, you'll see you have a $1.7 million expense for amortization in the PSAB world. Whereas on the municipal side, the assets are expensed when we spend the funds. And in our financials, we've, in the last few years, have transferred funds in from reserves to offset those expenses. So as you continue down the line here, your surplus deficit line, you'll see there's interest of 393,000. So that will offset your 1.7 million deficit. And then we have a transfer in of 740, which is also going to offset your amortization expense, which is causing a deficit. So your deficit is for your amortization on this schedule. Yes, Mr. CAO.
So you might have to clarify for Councillor Link what amortization is. As I understand, amortization is if you have an asset, it depreciates annually every year. So it's not actually an in or out actual amount being spent or anything. That assets, they have, and you know, stop me if I'm getting way off track, Crystal. But if an asset has a lifespan of 10 years or 20 years, for instance, a car, if you buy a $30,000 car and you amortize it, there's a depreciation of 6,000 annually that could be expensed. So same thing here. What I understand in with these kind of principles for this type of government audit, that all our assets, including roads or pipes and all our infrastructure, would depreciate and be amortized annually. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct in the PSAB world. So they're amortized. So they take the useful life of the asset, divide it over the years that is in service or expected to be in service. And that amount is expensed on the in the PSAB world on your financial statements. Whereas us in the municipal world, because we're cash basis, as soon as we output that cash, it's expensed at that point.
Does that make sense to you, Councillor Link?
Well, I think, what does, under amortization at the top of the page, what does TCA stand for then?
Tangible capital assets.
All right, then it does make sense.
Yeah. And if you want to also reference our general lifespan of our tangible capital assets, it's on page 10 of the draft statements. There's a listing of lifespan on there as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions or comments? Councillor Kleiber?
Crystal, I kind of want to hear your presentation first because my questions might be redundant. So is it all right if I ask you some questions after your presentation?
Well, I'm just, the statements were uploaded for council to view and to formulate the questions there. I'm not going to go through page by page.
Also, I'll ask her, so what you're saying is you want me to ask the questions now?
Yep, please do.
Go on, Crystal, let Councillor Kleiber ask all her questions and then you can answer them at the end.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good.
So I went through the draft statement that you gave us in January.
Mhm.
And when I look at cash, petty cash, cash on hand, you had 16,144,187. You now have 17,603,112. So what is the difference? Why is there $1 million difference there?
They would be the consolidated numbers.
Okay, so what was consolidated in that amount?
The entities that are listed on page 9. So we have to consolidate 20% of Red River North Flood Consortium, 18.5% of Red River Planning District, and 12.5% of the Cartier Regional Water Co-op. So like I said, these numbers, they are all consolidated with our entities. So it's not going to match our statements that have been presented internally. Those are our internal statements for our reporting purposes. These are consolidated audited statements as required by the province.
Right, but your cash on hand would be your cash on hand.
Right, so that's our cash plus our percentages of their cash.
So you're consolidating their cash with our cash?
Complete consolidation, yes.
Are you consolidating our accounts receivable too?
Everything.
So on your report in January, we had 2.7 million in receivables. Now you're saying we have 3.073 receivables. So all these numbers are now out from the.
Right, so everything's been consolidated with our entities. On page 5, you will see your consolidated financial statement of consolidated statement of financial position. And then there are areas where the notes would be linking where you're looking at right now.
Okay, well, under your liabilities, accounts payable and accrued, you had 3.1, we have 3.374. So what would have been consolidated in an extra 200,000, or is that our actual accounts payable?
No, that's ours plus our consolidation with our entities.
Okay. So our long-term debenture didn't change. Wouldn't you consolidate any loans or so forth to Cartier there?
The
So you have
long-term
0.165 million, and then you have long-term debentures 7.74 before. So did you add $3 million worth of debentures from Cartier?
So if you look on page 12, under note 6, it'll show long-term debt. It'll show the municipalities' long-term debt for general authority utility fines and then government partnerships. It shows the split of Cartier Regional and Red River Planning as well. That was added into that
Right,
figure.
so let's go to page 6. There's no consolidation on that page, right?
Yeah, no, it's consolidated statement of operations, so it is consolidated with our entities.
So you're saying that our consolidated property taxes are consolidated, grants in lieu of taxation are consolidated?
Well, if there are amounts to be consolidated with those two, they would be.
Well,
There
what-
is, if you look further into the financial statements or the budget draft statements on page, I was just looking at it. On page 39 and 40, there's analysis of taxes on roll and analysis of tax levy.
So I'm just going to jump in and point out that we're using a template from the province, right?
The auditors do, yes. This template is from the auditors.
Yeah, so
And
this isn't something that the RM's making up or something that the RM's come up with. This is
No.
a template provided that we have, our information goes into.
That is correct, yes. The province, they control the reporting requirements, and we have to follow their recommendation.
Yeah, so we take our numbers and the auditors and you have our numbers and plug them into the provincial template, and this is what we're presenting, what every RM would present in the same formula.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so the question on page 6, which has, I'm not talking about templates here, I'm just talking about numbers. You have budgeted property taxes at 5.0 and we got 5.2. So on the budget to the actual, we're over 3.18 in surplus. Am I correct in that? Right?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. So why is the budget showing at a from the previous year at a deficit? Why is we wouldn't have budgeted at a deficit?
No, that was discussed with Councillor Link's question. It is a PSAB adjustment related to consolidation.
Okay, so you did an adjustment.
Yeah, for amortization, because we operate on a cash basis. PSAB is accrual.
Right. Okay. So it's really difficult on this statement because you're saying everything I have a question on, well, it's all consolidated. So it's a little bit difficult to see what you're on, based on your draft statement of January and this statement, what I'm actually looking at, because under page 3, schedule 3, page 19, you're showing an actual general government services at 1.7 million. And when I look at the budget, it was 1.5 and actual was 1.379. And now the actual is 1.7. And you're saying now this is all consolidated. It's very hard to figure out what is from your actual budget in January to now, what isn't consolidated and where are the real numbers that we were given in January? Because I'm having difficulty seeing what you showed me in January versus what you're showing now.
And this is actually,
Could-
Counselor
I'm not
Clyburn, this
finished.
is
You're interrupting me, please. So there's a variation, quite a
but
variation.
you're saying how you
here.
can't understand it and it's difficult. I wanted to tell you.
I'm speaking, Mr. CAO. Could you please not interrupt me? So,
Yeah, but-
Ms. Shawada, what I'm asking here is when I'm looking at the Schedule 3 draft and I see 2019 1.715 and I see 2020 actual 1.708, it's difficult when I look at that section of the draft that you sent to us in January to now say there's a variation of $200,000. And where would I look on that consolidation of expenses in the draft budget you gave me in January to put those numbers together?
The draft budget or the state?
Go ahead, Ms.
The January one.
Go ahead, Mr. CAO, and then Crystal, Mr. Hada will go to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that audited statements are different than financial statements. And to bring a financial statement that was presented in January and try to somehow make sense of it in an audited statement prepared by the auditor would be very difficult and very difficult for even someone that was a designated accountant to take something from January, a financial statement that uses a different basis of accounting, and compare it to this statement prepared by the auditors that uses accruals. And you keep going back to this January statement, but we're looking at audited statements. I mean, when the financial statements came out, such as we looked at our June 30th statements, they're going to look a lot different from this one. So I want to point that out, that what we're looking at is somewhat different than an audited statement. So it's going to be very hard to match principles here, or to match numbers where different processes where, accrual versus cash was used. Do I sound on track there, Crystal?
Numbers
Yes.
should be there.
Yeah, so they are there, but they are consolidated with our entities, like I've said. That is the whole purpose of us reporting quarterly to council. Our internal statements is so that you know where the RM is sitting in its financial base based on budget that was approved. These are consolidated. The RM's numbers are year-end, and as well as the entities numbers that were produced during their audited statements as well.
So would you say, or could you say then, because people look at what we approved in January and sent to the auditors, and now we're receiving an audited statement. There are very different statements. We would agree on that.
Yes.
But would you say that the auditors then would look at that draft statement and they would look at this audited statement and they have put together those numbers and would approve those consolidated numbers?
Yes, that is correct. So they take, I submit everything that I submit to council to the auditors, as well as more detailed backup for them to do their testing and whatnot. And they pull our numbers and amalgamate them or consolidate them with the entities that we have on the books.
And they do the calculations.
They do the calculations on their end, yeah. So I'm assuming it's some large spreadsheet that they throw all the numbers in and calculate it. I don't see a going concern with the municipality, especially with our internal statements and now these audited statements that are presented here today. I think we're in a great position financially.
I just was wanting to let people know out there why there was a difference between this and
Yeah.
what we did in January and why there is that difference.
Yeah, there will always be a difference between the internal statements that the RM produces and the external audited consolidated statements. There's no way to match them up. It's very time consuming on my end if I wanted to pull everything apart.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? No? Okay, thank you.
So I just want to thank you, Ms. Shahada, for preparing these and getting them all organized and highlighting the position that we're in. Our municipality's never been in a better financial position. I believe currently we're at about 19 million in reserves. So we're getting caught up on all of this, and I'm really pleased to see that it's a success story for West St. Paul, and all of our information's been available online for people to see the quarterly financial reports. Council's received a lot of updates, and then we've been able to inform residents when they ask us questions and provide accurate information. So thank you very much for the updates to council. If there are no further questions, then I have a mover and a seconder. Go ahead, Ms. Link, Councillor Link.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I apologize. There was one more question that I had to ask, and that's refer to you to page 9, the reporting entity. The reporting entity is comprised of all funds, agencies, local boards, and committees of the council, which are controlled by the municipality. Now, at the bottom of the paragraph, it says there are no controlled entities. I'm wondering that the Recreation Committee has a bylaw that governs it, and it has control of its funds. So I'm wondering if the Recreational Committee is responsible to the RM, and should it be listed as a reporting entity?
We don't receive, or I should say, I don't receive financial statements from the Rec Committee. The RM doesn't control the Rec Committee. They are required to pay us a percentage of, I believe, registrations, I think that's the word, to the RM for use of the facility and whatnot.
Ms. Shahada, have you looked at the bylaw for the Rec Committee? Because I think there is some reporting requirements to the RM in that bylaw.
Okay, I will definitely have to take a look at that. No, I have not looked at the bylaw, but thank you for bringing that to my attention.
With no
Are there
further
any
questions,
other
then this is
questions or
coming.
comments?
Oh, sorry, Crystal.
Oh, sorry.
With no further questions, then this is coming back to council for the 8th of September. I have a mover and a seconder on this. I will ask for a recorded vote, and I will call for the question. All those in favor?
I'm sorry, I'm confused here. You said this is
Opposed?
coming back to council for a vote, so why are we voting?
Sorry, I can't hear you, Councillor Kleiber. There's a motion on the floor, so we're voting now.
I think
There
you
was a
can
mover
hear
and a
me. I'm
seconder.
just asking what I'm
The mover
voting on.
was Councillor Link and the seconder was Councillor Prague, and I've asked for a recorded vote, and we are in the middle of a vote. And so we've taken all
Well,
those in
when you call
favor.
to the question,
all those
you can
opposed?
ask a question. What I'm voting on.
All those
voting on?
opposed?
What am I voting on? Am I voting on this again on September 9th?
I have a motion on the table, and so
Yeah,
I have a
and we
motion on the
usually
table
have a
and we're
call
in
to
the
the
middle of a vote.
question so we can discuss what, I'm just asking what I'm voting on. Am I voting on this again on September 9th?
I have a motion on the table and I've called for the question.
Why can't
The
you answer the
resolution has been
question?
read. There was a mover and a seconder. The issue was discussed and we're in the middle of a vote. I'm sorry if people are confused and don't know what it is they're voting on.
Well, you're
I
saying
read the
that we're voting
resolution.
on
I
it
have a mover
again.
and a seconder, and we're in the middle of a vote. All those opposed? And that is carried.
Yeah, I don't know what we're voting on, so. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Shahada. 3.2 is our tender 2022-9 construction of Public Works building. I can read the resolution, but I'd actually like to put forward to council that we go in camera and discuss a perceived conflict of interest. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by
I'm gonna
Councillor
speak
Pacietti,
to,
seconded. Councillor Parag, all those in favor?
I can't go in camera, so.
Opposed?
Am I able to speak?
Opposed?
Am I able to speak?
Opposed? Opposed, okay, thank you, Councillor Link, and that is carried. Mr. CEO will be moving in camera. potential conflict of interest was discussed, and we're going to be moving forward to discuss tender 2022-9 construction of public works building expansion. Any comments from anyone on council before we proceed to discuss this item?
Yes, I guess I will declare a perceived conflict of interest and recuse myself from the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clapper. All right, Mr. CEO, I will turn it over to you and Mr. Romano if there's anything else to add on our public works building tender.
We'll turn it over to Mr. Romano, Director of Infrastructure, and one of the reasons we've had this special meeting is to it's important. This is a big project. It's important to keep moving it, and timing with weather is critical, and timing for the companies we're dealing with is important for the ever-changing cost of supplies.
Okay. I'm here today to present the administration report based on the tender 2022-09 construction of the Public Works Building Expansion. The issue here is to approve the construction of the Public Works Building Expansion tender 2022-09. History. The Council of the Aldermen of West St. Paul approved the capital budget of $995,000 in the 2022 financial plan for the Public Works Building Expansion, and $920,000 was budgeted within the $995,000 for the construction of the Public Works Building Expansion. The tender notice was advertised on July 15th, 2022 on MERX and the municipal website, and on June 17th in the Winnipeg Sun with a closing date of 3 p.m. Thursday, August 18th, 2022. Alternatives. Number 1. The Council of the Aldermen of West St. Paul accept the low bid for the construction of the Public Works expansion submitted by Premium Projects Limited for $806,582.49 plus GST. Item 2, the Council of the Aldermen of West St. Paul not accept the low bid for the construction of the Public Works building expansion submitted by Premium Projects Limited for $806,582.49 plus GST. The analysis. 5 bids were received and are summarized below. Tender submission results were low bid number 1, Premium Project Limited, $806,582.49. Number 2, Canotech Consultants Limited, $856,107.06. Number 3 was Park West Projects Limited, $900,260. Number 4, Blue Lake Construction, $1,075,000. Number 5, 561 Group, $1,716,578.55. All bids received complied with the RM Tender 2022-09 construction of the Public Works Building Expansion Tender Package. DGH Engineering Limited recommended awarding the contract to Premium Projects Limited for $806,582.49, including the 50% performance, labor, and material bond costs plus GST. The list of proposed subcontractors for Premium Projects Limited are summarized below. Concrete, formwork, excavation, fill, S&J Construction. Piling was Keller Foundation. Pre-engineered structure was U-Build Steel Buildings, Geldcan Inc. Mechanical was Cobra Mechanical. Electrical was Heritage Electric. And overhead doors was DDPL. If approved, the intent is to award the contract immediately and proceed with the construction of the Public Works Building Expansion.
Thank you, Mr. Romano. Any questions for Mr. Romano from council? Go ahead, Councillor Bisetti, and then Councillor Link. Go ahead.
Just in a very not detailed form, but how much work has really changed from the first bid that was denied by council to this term or to this tender this time? Is the building changed drastically? Is there big changes that have been done? Sorry, I didn't get right into detail on every one of them. It didn't look like a lot to me on when I just skimmed over it, but I might be missing something on the internal. So I'm not a builder, so I can't tell you. So
The tender package that was provided last year in 2021 was a design, build, delivery method package. The tender package for the 2022 was a traditional design, build, bid package. The difference in the building was basically we added one overhead door in this package, which we didn't have in the previous package.
Okay, so it's just on how it was. Okay, yeah, but basically on the building, there's an extra door. That's the biggest, like one of the bigger things that's changed in there. Okay,
That's correct.
That's all I could basically see too. So thank you.
Counselor Link, go ahead. You're still on mute, Counselor Link.
I apologize. I'm sorry, Madam Mayor. To Mr. Romano through the mayor. I've got a series of questions, and the first one is, there's a proposed list of subcontractors that I'm assuming have been supplied by Pretium. And will Pretium therefore be tied to using the subcontractors that they have listed? That is the first question.
May I answer you per question? Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, typically on 99% of the projects that are tendered, they usually get the subcontractors list, and they're bound by that.
Okay, thank you. That's good to know, because I hadn't noticed in the past that some contractors were listed. My slip up there. Next question was that I'd like an explanation of how the tender opening for this project was done, because, and this perhaps not your place to answer this question. It might be the CAO. I don't know. This is through the mayor. But the tender opening for this project was not done according to the practice of previous tenders, where the MLO opened envelopes, stated companies and prices.
May I answer that question? Okay. You're not totally accurate there, Councillor. In the tender documents, when we're going through Merck's and where the engineer is the prime consultant, like for example on PTH 8, the Rossmore Addis intersection, the engineer opens up the Merck's tender documents. So it's an electronic submission that they do. So this electronic submission then was submitted to DGH Engineering in turn, and then it was opened up on a virtual opening we had at a public opening tender. And when we were all present when those bids were stated, Laney was there, myself, and DGH Engineering was there, and they're the ones that opened the tenders and read out the bids.
They opened up folders that contained the bids.
Yeah. They received the electronic bids, and they were opened up at DGH Engineering's office.
So Laney was not present then.
Laney was on virtual as well as I was at the opening.
Okay. Now, at the opening, Pretium was their quote was $799,388. On the report, it now says that it's up to $806,582. How do you explain the difference there?
Yeah, the engineer, DGH Engineering, opened the tenders, and you are correct, it was $799,000. And then they advised that the bonding costs were going to be, I think it was $7,194.49, which made that revised number $806,582.49. However, DGH in a further investigation confirmed that the premium people had included in their $7.99 price the bonding costs. So the actual contract will be with bonding included at their original bid submission, which was $7.99 and change. $79,388.
Okay, so the report isn't quite accurate that we're reading today.
Well, the report was based on DGH's information on Friday last week, and we received a clarification by it was about 1:30 this afternoon. But the MLO advised that we can't change the administration report and that I'd have to address it during this meeting.
Okay, so it's been addressed. That's good. All right, I believe that's all the questions that I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Prague, any questions from Ms. Romano? No questions from me as well. I thank you for following the process and the changes that council requested on this. And so it certainly, as Councillor Link has pointed out, changes the process when we didn't do the design build for about 400,000 cheaper. It's changed the process in terms of DGH overseeing that now, which council approved by resolution. And so instead of what I had said when we had talked about it, instead of getting a happy meal and it all in one, we're doing it by piecemeal, which adds more work for you and adds more work for council in the review process. So I'm pleased to see that this is under the second budget at $793,088, and so that we're well under what the budget is. So appreciate that and the report as well. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Romano.
Just to clarify, premium's price was $7.99, $388 plus GST.
So we'll need to, Mr. Romano, adjust our resolution. Is that the number?
Yes.
Because Lainey has a number in our resolution
Yeah. So
that I want to make sure she understands what number should be in that resolution.
should be $799,388 plus GST.
And council, I've made that correction.
Thank you, Ms. Shaw. Had I read the resolution already on this one? I don't believe I have, so I don't need the, thank you. Good. Any further questions? All right, then I will go ahead and read the resolution on this one. Be it resolved that the council of the municipality of West St. Paul accept the low bid for the construction of the public work building expansion submitted by Pretium Project Limited for $799,388 plus GST. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Link, seconded Councillor Busetti. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask for a recorded vote. And I will call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. All right, thank you, Mr. Romano, and we can get busy working on Public Works building expansion to take that additional snow clearing equipment. Happy to see that.
Thank you very much, everyone. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Right, in moving along our agenda, if somebody would like to let Councillor Kleiber know we're finished with the item that she was in a perceived conflict of interest on. All right, we're able to continue. Item 3.3, I'll read the resolution and we can discuss. Be it resolved that the Council of the Rural Municipality of West St. Paul approve Valley Fiber Limited to have right-of-way access in the municipality for fiber optic infrastructure. And further, be it further that the mayor and chief administrative officer be authorized to sign and execute any required agreement. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Busetti, seconded Councillor Link. Any discussion regarding the Valley Fiber? Go ahead, Councillor Link.
I have a suggestion on the motion on the resolution that we say, and further that the mayor and CAO be authorized to sign and execute approving Valley Fiber Limited having right-of-way access in the municipality for fiber optic infrastructure, rather than saying any required agreement. That we are specific on what the required agreement is in the
All right.
resolution.
I'm good with that.
So just Counselor Link, just to understand, repeating the first line, so saying, and further that the mayor, so be it resolved that the council of the Rural Municipality of West St. Paul approve Valley Fiber Limited to have right-of-way access in the municipality for fiber optic infrastructure, which is included in the resolution. And further that the mayor and chief administrative officer be authorized to sign and execute the required agreement to have right-of-way access, like you're wanting to state it twice?
That's not quite exactly how I stated it, but yes, I'd rather not have any required agreement. I don't like those words. I would like it to be specific. Approving Valley Fiber Limited having right-of-way access in the municipality for fiber optic infrastructure.
Counselor Bisetti, go ahead.
It already states it at the beginning of the resolution that it's for fiber optic work. So I don't see why we need to change it again. They're working in all communities around Manitoba, around Winnipeg. I'm sure they're working on the same resolution with all the municipalities. They're advertised everywhere that they're going all around us. So I don't think it needs to be changed. It's already saying fiber optics.
Yes, but it's also saying any required agreement. There could be other required agreements we don't know about.
What if we changed any to the? Would that work, Counselor, that link that it's not any required agreement and execute the required agreement?
Sounds good, Madam Mayor.
Okay. The seconder, Counselor Bisetti, I believe, are you okay with changing any to the?
Yes.
Okay. Any further comments on this? Just again, reminding council and for the community watching, this is their standard agreement that's been provided to all the municipalities. So this isn't our lawyer reviews it in the municipality of West St. Paul that it works for us, but it's a standard right-of-way agreement that they've been using with all 54 or 52 communities that they're working to bring fiber with. Quite exciting. All right, having approval on the change resolution word, I will ask for a recorded vote and I will call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Thank you, council. It's pretty exciting. Fiber coming to parts of our community and improved internet service for our residents. Good day. All right, the final item that we have is 4.1, a sponsorship request from 1v1 Football Dream Soccer Academy U15 girls team. And the attached request was submitted to myself and Councillor Prague and Councillor Bisetti, I believe, on a local U15 girls team for soccer. Their home field is Sonova Centre, West St. Paul. They came in first place at the provincials in Manitoba, and they are going to the national championship in Prince Edward Island, October 5th to 10th, representing the entire province of Manitoba for U15 girls coming out of West St. Paul. So that's pretty exciting. So bringing to the table, they've asked for a sponsorship request. And so we have brought that forward to the table for review of council. Councillor Prague, if there's anything else that you're wanting to add to, we've all seen their requests for amounts. I'll turn it over to you, Councillor Prague.
I know some of the girls resides in West St. Paul that are playing on this team. And I know we supported a lacrosse team before. And it would be ideal if we could give some support to store residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bisetti, I know some of the girls reside in your area. Any comments on this request?
No, just a lot that what Councillor Craig was saying. There's a few spread out throughout the municipality. They do practice out of Sonova. This was something that they were hoping, I guess when soccer started, we talked about this in the recreation committee side, and they did make it as far as they were hoping, I guess, as far as every other team expects to make it. Now they're into the provincials and they'd like to go on with some advertising and some new looking spiffy. So that's where the sponsorship will come in. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kleiber, any comment?
I believe that all of our sponsorships happen at budget time. And that all those people that want sponsorship are supposed to come at that time, and we set a budget, and then that's the budget. So I know when Councillor Link asked for additional funds for scholarships, it was denied because the budget was already set. So I'm not sure that we should entertain this at this time. I mean, congratulations to this team. My brothers were very heavily involved in soccer as well, and made provincial and national teams. So I fully understand it. However, I'm wondering if the rec committee could sponsor this team rather than it having coming out of our budget right now, because our budget has been set. So and I'd like that spoken to and see if we can do that first and then go from there. Do we have a resolution on the table to vote on this today, or is this just for information only?
It was brought to council for discussion, but I do have a resolution if that's the direction that council is prepared to go in terms of a sponsorship. If not, then we don't.
Why wasn't the resolution posted for us to see?
Depends on the will of council. If council's wanting to move forward on it, Ms. Shaw did provide a resolution in case this is something council decides. I can read that, Councillor Link, and then we can vote on it.
Well, I think it's, I have a little bit of a problem with this as well, because this is coming during elections, and it's interesting time. Thank you.
Mr. CAO, go ahead, and then Councillor Link.
Madam Mayor, I know during budget time that Councillor Parag led a conversation that we have money set aside for, we do all of this at budget time, but he had money set aside for, it was his suggestion we set aside money for things that happen during the year. So not only is this group going to the provincials, it's actually the Canadians, I believe they're going to. So Parag and council had agreed with this money at budget time, and Crystal told me that there are still funds available in that group, that we have funds for set aside during the year for people to ask. So this is not something that we just do at budget time, that we had realized in past years. After budget, we have groups that weren't aware at budget that they were going to ask for money. So there are some funds set aside, I've been told by Crystal.
Thank you, Mr. CAO. Councillor Link had her hand up, and then Councillor Kleiber after that. Go ahead, Councillor Link.
Council deals with funding requests right now from sports teams as they come up. Council does not have a policy to guide how to deal with these requests to ensure fairness for applicants. So I believe that the thing for council to do is to approve a resolution to direct administration to prepare a policy on funding sports teams to be used as a decision-making guide, and that council set aside an amount in future budgets for this specific purpose. I do not recall any amount, and I would like to know what it is. I do not recall any amount that was set aside in the budget. I do recall Councillor Parag making comments, but I don't recall any specific amount, and I don't know how much has been spent and how it has been spent. I know we contributed to the lacrosse team. What else have we spent? What's left? I would also like to congratulate this team on its accomplishments. My granddaughter is a member of a soccer team, so of course I'm a soccer grandma, and I believe in encouraging kids. But I also want to be fair to all applicants that come before us. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kleiber, go ahead.
Yeah, so from what this letter, there's one person that resides in our RM out of the whole team. And they're in Councillor Pirag's ward, is that correct? Or they also live, there's some that also live in Councillor Bichetti's ward. Anybody else's wards or just those two? And what level of sponsorship are we talking about right now?
Thank you for your questions, Councillor Kleiber. Go ahead, Councillor Prague.
To get the record straight, none of them lives in my ward. None. And the request, the thing I was going to suggest, what we give the lacrosse team, to give the same amount to this team. The same amount, exact amount. That's all. Thank you.
Any
So
further
can I get
discussion on
my-
that? Go ahead, Councillor Kleiber.
Can I get my question answered? Because somebody said that somebody lived in one of the wards here. So none of this team lives in West St. Paul? And also, what did we give the lacrosse team? Because I wasn't there at the time.
You're asking how many players live in West St. Paul, or you want to know whose ward that they're living in before you vote?
I would like to know both. Whose ward are they in and how many players of this team actually reside in West St. Paul?
I don't think we have the addresses in terms of voting and in terms of what ward they're in to list the kids and what wards they live in. We've been provided with information that all of council sees on the report. I don't think it would be appropriate to say we're voting on this if you share who lives in what ward. We could contact them, but
How many people on this team reside in West St. Paul? Simple question.
go ahead, Councillor Bisetti.
It shouldn't really matter. There's two. I believe it was two. We had one on the lacrosse team. You never asked the question. Oh, you weren't there. Sorry. I'm just to clarify. So it shouldn't matter where they live in the West St. Paul. They play out of Sonova. There is residents from West St. Paul. It's all one community. It comes out of the same thing. So it shouldn't matter where they're coming from if that's what you're basing your answer on. Thank you.
Okay, my opinion is it does matter because the taxpayer is paying for it. And if we're supporting our own kids, that's really important.
Thank you, Councillor Kleiber. I think it's amazing that a West St. Paul team playing out of West St. Paul, that is a West St. Paul soccer team, West St. Paul heading to Prince Edward Island. I think that's great. I respect and appreciate Councillor Link's perspective in terms of fairness. And with that in mind, this council's approved funding for a lacrosse team. It would be pretty hard to come to a team that is going to the nationals, that has won our province, plays out of Sonova Center, where we would allow, provide funding for the lacrosse team that's gone to the Canada Games and would now deny another team that's made it this far. I wouldn't think that's fair. In terms of what the criteria is, I think it would be great to have something going forward for sports teams. We have countless people kids playing sports in West St. Paul. And maybe the criteria is if you make it to the Canada Games or if you win provincials and make it nationally and have to actually travel out of province to the other side of this country to represent West St. Paul, that maybe you're worthy of funding. But that can be something that is discussed at a policy in the future. Going forward, knowing that this council has sponsored lacrosse, it makes it very hard to deny soccer and tell them we're not supporting them and that team has made it nationally. I think that's an amazing accomplishment. I think to have West St. Paul Council behind you as kids, that you've had enough determination to practice hard enough to take provincials and go to the nationals is a real sign of determination and something that our community should be proud of and is part of our identity and things that we talked about as part of our strategic planning, that this is a team that's representing West St. Paul nationally. So I'm supportive of this. Councillor Prague had suggested 1,500 to be matching what we did previously. And in the spirit of Councillor Link's comments about fairness, I would be prepared to put 1,500 for a resolution and council can vote as they see fit on that. Councillor Link, I've gone around the table a couple of times. I was asked to bring a resolution forward by Councillor Kleiber. I'm going to read a resolution and it can be.
I didn't
voted on
ask
or
you
not
to bring a
voted on.
resolution forward.
Whereas the 1v1 Football Dream Soccer Academy U15 girls team has requested sponsorship from the rural municipality of West St. Paul to help support their team at the Toyota 2022 National Championships. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the rural municipality of West St. Paul provide a sponsorship to the 1v1 Football Dream Soccer Academy U15 girls team in the amount of $1,500. Can I have a mover, please?
Recorded
Moved by
vote,
Councillor Prague, seconded Councillor Brussetti. Any
recorded vote,
further
please.
discussion? Go ahead,
Recorded
Councillor
vote,
Kleiber.
please.
I have
And
further,
then Councillor Link.
I have further discussion. On this letter, there's no $1,500 sponsorship.
Right.
There's a $500 sponsorship. There's a $2,000 sponsorship and so on. So why are you coming up with a $1,500 sponsorship? Shouldn't you be following what this letter says?
Thank you, Councillor Kleiber. Councillor Link, go ahead.
My question about what budget amount was allotted and what budget amount has been spent has not been answered.
Mr. CAO, you confirmed with Ms. Shahada that we still have budget funds available for the additional amount that we provided for last minute asks for requests for grants. We still have funding available.
We still have $2,500 in that account.
Thank
I
you, Mr.
couldn't hear
CAO.
that. I couldn't hear it.
We still have $2,500 in that account.
Thank you, Mr. CAO. Go ahead, Councillor Link.
So the budget was for $4,000, was it?
I believe it was 4,000 or 5,000. I don't have that in front of me. I do know that there's $2,500 left in that account. You'd have to go back to your budget papers.
Well, I have my budget papers and I made no such note of this amount. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. CAO. Any further discussion? The 1,500 was added at request of Councillor Prague to answer Councillor Kleiber's question. And the amount, the team would, I'm sure, be happy with any amount we're willing to provide. As well, Councillor Link suggested that we need to ensure fairness, and this is amount we provided to the lacrosse team.
Recorded vote, please.
Seeing no further questions, I will ask for a recorded vote. And I will call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Right, that is our meeting for this evening. Can I have a mover to adjourn our meeting? Moved by Councillor Brussetti, seconded by Councillor Prague. All those in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Thank you. And we will see you at the regular council meeting. Have a good night.